The fake news media will temporarily become hard news media if the decision is made that Biden has to step down. Until that time, they will be covering for Biden. They'll be making excuses for Biden. They'll be ignoring all the negatives. You wait and see, and then watch what happens to their ratings when that happens.
Wow. And folks, it's all playing out just as Rush said. I'm convinced now, more than I've ever been, that elements within our own country, a tyrannical minority, are colluding with elements outside of our nation to bring our republic and our way of life to a screeching halt. They wish to replace our liberty and our freedom with their vision of a totalitarian paradise, which will be hell on earth if it's allowed to come to fruition. There needs to be a reckoning. From George Soros to Chris Wallace, from Barack Hussein Obama to Twitter, from James Comey to John Brennan. These architects, these agents in an American axis of evil who are orchestrating the attempted destruction of our people must pay a heavy price. In tomorrow's preamble, we'll start exploring ways to do just that. Now, let's get to our first guest. Joining me now for discussion and analysis, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, it's always fantastic to see you. You know, I, for one, am no longer in the mood to tolerate those who are trying to harm me and mine. What do you make of Rush Limbaugh's prediction that Obama has got the goods not only on Hillary but on Joe Biden, and now that they are no longer useful, it's time for them to go?
It's amazing, it's frightening, but it makes the most sense of anything because nothing else about Joe Biden, him getting elected, him just completely butchering the whole decision of Afghanistan, the foreign policy, energy, the border, everything he touches turns to dirt. It makes perfect sense. It's like Rush Limbaugh was a prophet. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that he was predicting, as you just outlined, Chris, it's very evident that this makes sense. It's the one rationale, because otherwise you scratch your head and say, how'd this guy get there? And more importantly, how is it that the left continues to support a person who has completely wrecked what was a very strong economy?
MSNBC personality, a guy by the name of Ali Velshi. He's the guy that was out there with everything burning around him and all the riots saying, oh, it's mostly peaceful. He is demanding that NATO take action in Ukraine, Governor. Some men just like to watch the world burn, I guess.
Well, what's amazing is surely somebody who hosts a show on NBC would know that you can't call on NATO to get involved because the Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So to say NATO ought to rush in there would violate the whole concept of NATO, which is you have to be a member to get their protection. It just, again, doesn't make sense. But I don't know where to start with these folks on the left, particularly the media. They so carefully pick the stories they're interested in. They ignored the Hunter Biden laptop, which is not so much about Hunter. It's about the big guy and his 10% cut and the fact that he invited his son to fly on U.S. government jets at our expense to go to China and make business deals while his pop was the vice president. If that doesn't smell of corruption, then nothing does. Then it all smells great, and skunks are a new scent that we'll put in a bottle and start wearing as cologne.
Speaking of something that stinks, Biden's generals admitting that his threat of sanctions failed to deter Putin. Now Biden is calling for Putin to be prosecuted as a war criminal. I don't know about you, Governor. It just seems to me more empty words from an empty head in a hollow administration.
The sad thing is, Chris, we're watching every time Biden comes out and makes a statement, he has people around him and under him who have to come out and clean it up. I've never seen so many shovels in my life as that follow the parade that Joe Biden leads. And they're having to get more and more shovels and dump trucks to pick up what he leaves behind. This is another example of it. There ought to be international outrage, and quite frankly, there is. When we see the atrocities that we've seen in Ukraine over the weekend, this is the kind of stuff that you remember from Pol Pot and some of the most vicious dictators and animals that led countries. This is beyond uncivilized behavior for what the Russians have done. And Joe Biden will say, well, we're going to put sanctions, or, boy, we're going to get him tried as a war criminal. Well, explain how that's going to work out. Tell us how that's going to go. because he's never been able to quite put it there. And if he thinks it's so bad, why isn't he escalating the hardware that the army of Ukraine desperately needs to stop the atrocities?
Governor, break out those shovels you were talking about, because Mr. Biden had another embarrassing gaffe. They continue to pile up, along with other stuff this administration specializes in. Here's the latest over the weekend. Watch.
And I'm deeply proud of the work she's doing as First Lady with Joining Forces initiative. She started with Michelle Obama when she was Vice President and now carries on.
Well, knowing that Obama said that we can never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up, Governor, I guess it's entirely possible that Michelle Obama was doing VP duties at that time. But on a serious note, how much longer do you think Biden's team, his know-nothing millennial left-wingers, can cover for this guy?
I think they've given up covering for him. I mean, last night at the Grammys, don't know if you saw, they gave a special award to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's greatest hits, and it was a 4-album set of some of his most recent gaffes, because there's never been a collection like this. It really is the most remarkable expression of a person who is the sitting president. Chris, let me be fair. All of us who live in public life and who have to go to a microphone and sometimes are called on to make impromptu remarks, we'll make some mistakes and we'll botch a few things. But this is a guy that goes out there with a scripted speech that his staff has written for him. And if he gets the slightest bit off the speech, he stumbles into a hole and can't get out by himself. It's like that old commercial, "Help, I've fallen and I can't get up." And here comes the Secretary of State and the Defense Department and Jen Psaki, and everybody rushes in because they heard the alarm. Joe has tripped again on his tongue, and we all have to go and try to help him up.
Governor Mike Huckabee, telling it like it is, as always, sir. It's always a pleasure having you here. We'll talk again soon.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Experts are warning the current 40-year inflation high will only get worse. See how to protect your IRA with gold. Get a free info kit like this one at birchgold.com/Newsmax. There's no cost. There's no obligation. Just get your free info kit at birchgold.com/Newsmax.